Welcome to Galactic Grandmother Heart to Heart. My name is April, and my special guest today is Judy Cali. I met Judy about approximately 8 or 9 years ago when she gave me a reading, and she does fabulous readings. I can attest to that. Judy lives in Oklahoma now. We used to get together for lunch in La Quinta, California, which I miss, but Judy is an angelic healer. She's a channel, a medium. She is a speaker and she facilitates workshops. She's a spiritual minister. She was a psychic on the NBC program Bermuda Triangle and Atlantis. And she's been working literally since she was a child on behalf of spirit. So it's over 50 years she's been working on our behalf, and her resume is far too much to go through right now. But I just want to say, I love you. I'm glad you're here. And thank you for joining me on my YouTube channel.
This is a real gift, and I'm very happy to be here. And by the way, I've been publicly, but I've actually been doing my work for over 73 years,
Oh
since
my
I'm 3 years old. So
wow.
I've been around the sun 76 times. So here we are.
Yeah. And I'm glad you are. I should say you're also quite a animal activist in your own way. And
Yes, go ahead.
that's close to your heart.
Very much so. My younger daughter is an animal communicator for over 35 years, and we rescued 100 dogs a year and we paid for it. And at one point, when we were in La Quinta, we had 16 dogs in the house. And so we were constantly hiding dogs. And now in Oklahoma, we have 8. So they've already ascended, all animals. They
Mhm.
come from the one consciousness,
Mhm.
and they all make choices as a group, all animals. Isn't that marvelous?
Yes.
So they know how to unconditionally love, and we're not quite there yet.
Right.
So the conversations my daughter and I have with them are always on a master level. And most of our dogs have had human lives, and several of them have been very, very famous beings. The one we just put to sleep a year and a half ago lived a life as Pablo Picasso.
Wow.
Another one of our dogs was Albert Einstein's best friend. He's a mathematical genius. And another one of our dogs was Edith Piaf, the world famous opera singer. And she also was from the Ryder truck fortune. She was an heiress. Um, and one of our dogs is the guardian of the Ark of Creation, and also the guardian of the Golden Flame of Life, which is 2 of the highest offices you can hold.
Wow.
So it's been quite a joy to have the pleasure of speaking and sharing with these beautiful hearts who have no intention other than to love you.
And is that their purpose? I mean,
Yes.
why did they decide to come in as a dog in this lifetime?
Well, first of all, animals have a higher consciousness. So
Hmm.
they in the higher consciousness. Also, as an example, we had at one point we had 8 dogs, and we had one that had passed 6 months before, and my black poodle, who was my very fine gentleman, his name was Finley, and he was such a gentleman. And one day he said to me, I want you to know that all of us, including Karma, who passed 6 months ago, all came from the same family in World War II. And he said, I was an Air Force bomber pilot, and I was stationed where your dad was. And your dad was the finest Air Force bomber pilot I ever saw. And then they proceeded to give us all their names, all the parts they played. And it was phenomenal because each of these animals, one was an African gray parrot, and these dogs came from all over the United States. And one of them, the one that had been Edith Piaf, she was in Orange County and she was a breeder dog that they totally misused her to the point that they couldn't adopt her out at the shelter. All they could do was euthanize her. So they called us and said, would you be kind enough to consider taking this dog? Because
Mm.
all we can do is euthanize her. And she ended up, all kinds of things went through her. But the point I'm making is they contacted us. So
Right.
this isn't each one we went out specifically and got. They came to us in many, many ways.
Mhm.
And yet I never heard or had it presented to me that a whole family would find a way to be together. And isn't that marvelous?
That is remarkable. So
Yes,
these ascended masters decide to come in and express total unconditional love,
yes.
anchor that energy into our collective consciousness here.
Not only that, but when animals get lost, as the term is, they're going to their next family. They've already completed whatever they needed to do with you if they actually are gone.
Hmm.
And that was interesting to me because they said we purposely keep our lives short so we can be with more people. And I thought that was really amazing.
Yes.
Our way, our dogs had lived to be 100, right?
Right. Right.
So that's something. And also, all of the animals made a conscious choice about 10 or 15 years ago to show us how to stop being prejudiced. And this was a consciousness of the one consciousness of every animal on the planet. And so you may have noticed in the last 10 to 15 years, you see animals and species befriending each other that
Oh,
we
yeah.
never saw. You've
Hmm.
got dogs nursing kittens. You've got a goose that's best friends with a donkey. You've got a dolphin that every day for 18 years, it comes to the dock and makes its sounds. The dog comes. The dog's owner is a captain, has his own boat. And he says to the dolphin, okay, take us where we need to go. The dolphin guides them where in the ocean they need to go. And the dog leaps off of the boat and they play for an hour. And then the dog leaps on the dolphin's back and the dolphin takes the dog back to the boat. And they've been doing this every day for 18 years.
Oh my goodness. That's
Isn't that
amazing.
amazing? So
That is.
you see all
Yeah.
the, I saw a cat with a mouse in its mouth, and the cat was saunteringly walking through the house with the mouse in its mouth. It got to its food dish. It very gently laid the mouse down. It moved to the right, and they both ate out of the same food dish.
Wow.
That's a change, right?
That's a change. That's amazing.
Kind of things that you may be noticing. And the animals are saying, we're one family. You're
Mm.
one family.
Right.
And you not look at anybody with eyes of love
Mhm.
as family members. And each person has their own reason for being here that may or may not make sense to you.
Right.
Doesn't mean that you're not part of one family. And he said, so if you could stop pigeonholing people into this category and this category so you can feel superior, that's why you do it. And he said, animals don't do that. And he even told me I had a bear come on one of my channelings on a radio show. And the bear said, it was amazing. He was a panda bear. And he said, his name was Peter. And he said, I have a message for the world. And he said, we're not beasts. And I thought that was interesting. He
Mhm.
said, I'm living a life as Peter, the panda bear. And he said, um, I am black and white, and my best friend is a peacock. And he said, so my best friend is not black or white, and I am not all the colors of a peacock. And yet I see the beauty and the variety in all animals. And he said, and I'm also living a life as a lioness on the Serengeti with 3 pups.
Mhm.
And he said, I want to share with you how we teach our young. And I could see the lioness on the Serengeti. To the right of her was a tree. She was leaning up against a tree. And behind her were 3 little cubs. I could see them. And then he said, okay, he said, here's how this works. He said, the mama needs to feed her children. And yet he's also teaching his children, her children, the respect for all life.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, so in front of me, I'm seeing this herd of gazelles running in front of this lioness. And she said, I telepathically say to the gazelles, who's ready to go home? And she said, it can be an animal was torn up by another animal. It can be they were born with a mental function that doesn't work. Maybe they have a broken leg. Maybe they're starving because they can't eat, or whatever it is, but they're done. And he said, she said, it isn't my place to decide who that is. So she said, once I make that clear to the gazelle higher self, then when I see a gazelle start walking towards me, I know that's the one that's ready to go home. And she said, and then I say to the gazelle, I will make it quick. And so she said, and that way I'm teaching my children to be respectful of nature, be respectful of other animals. And we're extending a kindness, just as kind as they're helping our tummies to be fed, but we're helping an animal to go home. And I thought that was so beautiful. It brought tears to
Yeah.
my, as Peter explained this. And I've never heard, we get information that I have never heard other animal communicators getting.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always from such a more expanded understanding. And I thought that was beautiful. So Peter made it very clear and he said, we're not beasts. He said, yes, we have our tubs, our tussles, just like you do. And we have our favorites and things like that. He said, but we have a deeper respect for each other.
Mm-hmm.
He said, that's what we hope you guys do. That everything in life is beautiful and there's a reason they're here. And everybody's not to be the same. And
Right.
I thought that was a lovely message to share.
Absolutely. Oh, I love it. Brings me to tears. Which brings me very much to my next subject that I wanted to ask you about was among your many spiritual talents, you are a Lemurian channel for High
Yeah.
Priest Adama of
Yes.
Telos and Mount Shasta. And
Yes.
every time I go on shamanic journeys to Telos, the first being that I am greeted by is Bella, and she's a full-size, beautiful lioness, and she has
Oh,
bonded with my soul many, many lifetimes ago. I just there's so much love between us, and she's
yes.
always the first one that I have to see and love on when I get there. And the animals, can you speak to us of the animals in those higher frequency interdimensional cities, the Agarthan cities like Telos?
Yes. The animals, a lot of them that have gone extinct on the top of the planet live in Telos. And by the way, so does Nikola Tesla. That's where he is.
Oh,
Okay. And there's 5 layers of living. And the lower level is animals. It just because they need more space to roam, right?
huh,
And what's beautiful is it took about 200 to 300 years once the Lemurians went inside Mount Shasta
uh-huh,
and created 5 levels of living. It took 200 to 300 years for the tigers and lions and the big meat eaters to
mhm,
become vegetarians,
uh-huh,
but they're all vegetarian animals now. And so there's no aggression, it's all gone. And I've been channeling Inner Earth since about the year 2000. And what's amazing is when you really understand that they are already living in fifth and sixth and sometimes seventh dimension,
uh-huh,
and they there's no disease, there's no illness, there's no aging, there's no time, and there's no space, because all those things are caused by fear. So you only work about 4 hours a day, and the rest of the time, and even when you're working, you're doing something you thoroughly enjoy.
right,
So it's really wonderful. But the animals, um, they come from a place of, they actually play the part of many of the guides. If somebody has a question or something, and they tune into themselves, many times it will be an animal guide
And this,
because he carries a higher level of wisdom. And
right?
isn't that?
Yeah, and the Native American Indians have always believed that they had their animal spirits that
Yeah.
were guides.
Yes. And also, the indigenous cultures, I call them the first peoples. The
Hmm.
indigenous cultures have always celebrated all of life.
Hmm.
And they've always celebrated the animals, the trees, the sky, all of life. And it's really lovely that all that's now coming back
Uh-huh.
and they're leading the way, which is beautiful. So, animals, and the angel for animals is Yvonne, Yvonne. So you can always call in Yvonne, along with, of course, St. Francis, and they will help. But it's really beautiful the way the animals have complete freedom and they help also guide and are part of the council meetings and things like that.
Now, Telos was originally built because the Lemurians were escaping the Lemuria before it sank, correct? And
Yes,
now the population has grown up to, the last I heard was 1.5 million, or it started out at about 25,000 according to
right.
what I've read. Can you talk about what High Priest Adama has shared with you about what they might be looking to like integrate? I know we're pretty primitive on the surface still, but what has he told you about their plans?
Well, first of all, let me just share a couple of things.
Hmm.
Um, when I did the documentary in 2005, I was hired by NBC, and
Uh-huh.
it's still on occasion on the Sci-Fi Channel. But when the second day I was in Bimini, which is where they flew me from Florida to do the documentary, the second day I was on the boat with the lady producer, and I said to her, I want to tune in and see what I'm here to give globally.
Hmm.
And I was the first person to present an Andara to the world because I had an Andara crystal with me, which is an Andara which celebrates the Andarian priest and priestesses of Lemuria. They were the highest frequency priest and priestesses, and they're called Andarians. You won't find anything in print about them. As far as Adama, I'm going to see. Okay, here he is. We are quite excited in jubilation at the amazing expansion that all of you on the top of the planet have been going through. It is in some ways mind blowing because you're going in a faster speed of expansion than we originally thought would take place. In our world, you are always in our hearts, and we feel you there with us. And we've already paved the way for you. And we've already made and created spaces for you here. So you're already taken care of. We don't have any interest in hurrying up your ascension experience. There are gifts and nuggets of wisdom in every breath you take, and no one is interested in taking any delightful surprises from your ability to tap into and be totally at peace with who you are. And much contrary to what a lot of people might think, we do come on the top of the surface, but we usually do it in a very discreet manner. And we just check it out to feel the air and things like that. We know that it is coming for us to come onto the top of the planet more publicly. And we're looking very forward to it. But there again, we have no interest in speeding up the process because the journey is the delight. It's not about destinations, it's about the journey. And each of us have had and are having our own journey with coming back home into our own hearts.
Hmm.
And that's something that you want to cherish, and something that you want to savor. So, as much as you can, you've been being guided to slow way down and to be. It's not about doing. And as you give yourself permission to be exactly whatever your heart's guiding you to feel, then you're here. There is no forward, there is no up and down, there's
Mhm.
no backward. You're here as source. So get the idea out of your mind, my suggestion, that you have this long road you still need to do. That's not true. It is a thought away. And when you love you more, then you will feel you there. And that's how you know.
Mhm.
I hope that answers your question.
Yes, beautiful. That was a
There,
beautiful message from High Priest Adama. Oh, I love you so much. Thank
I
you
love
for being
you,
on
Angel.
the planet here at this time.
Till we meet again.
All righty. Bye-bye.